to some degree set. To some degree, your next 2 to 3 years will be in place. And of course, there will be fluidity and adaptation and change available with all of those. But what you have actually done, Michael, is surrendered to the chaos. But now you are coming back to be one to emit and, shall we say, transmit to others the frequencies of light that hold within them wisdom, uplifting energy, and the ability to cosmically receive those intuitions, downloads, information that will help build the new earth. The part of you that works as a psychic bridge is a part of you that you really wanted to turn the heat up on a couple of years ago, but it was more hard than you thought at the time. It's not because the path is not the path you are going on. You are here to be a psychic bridge, as well as many of the other things you're here to be. But you were not able to turn the volume up at the moment you thought you were going to be able to. 9 months from now, you will look at your path and you will see how much more robust a psychic bridge you will be because of all of these zigzags you have had to go through, and a new level of strength you have found through, we will call it, your multiple near-death experiences in the last 24 months. For you have had 3.
Wow. Thank you, Ziz.
You do not need to thank us, for we are just in service to what you are calling in. This is a collaborative conversation, but we appreciate the thanks as a gesture of gratitude. That is a good practice for humanity, to remember to have gratitude. Gratitude is actually just a way of reconnecting.
So on that note then, and I might double back on myself, though I really want to make this about others, of which we are all one.
You are a focus person for these others, so do not deny yourself as being an example.
I'm going to bookmark. I will come back. I promise you. As I step back, this information was very powerful for me. It was spot on, so I definitely want to double back with that. I want to look, though, at the history of humanity as much as we can go there, because I know this was part of your channeling with Lee and with Diana in the latest work. I want to understand this energetic grid. What happened to us thousands of years ago? What happened to humanity? What are these crystals in the earth? And how is this grid finally letting go of its grasp, so to speak, on humanity?
Well, the best way we can explain this to you today, for it is most important for us and also for you listening, that the information we give you is supportive and expansive, rather than leading you even further down a rabbit hole of needing more information, which is a delicate balance for the human mind. For the human mind, when it is triggered or off center or off balance, wants to know things. And it thinks that knowing more things will actually calm it down. And actually, the opposite is usually true. But what we will tell you is this. You were a more galactic humanity in times past. Your awareness of your position galactically was fully known to the humans who were incarnate some 10,000 plus years ago. And some of you were incarnate at that time, and some of you were very aware of what was taking place on Earth energetically. For example, some of you were what you would now perceive as guides. So you may have been part of a group like we, the Z's, as we have been named by humans, are a part of a guide group to Lee. Some of us have been incarnate on the planet. Many of us have not. But we have all been around the Earth a great deal, and we have seen it through many cycles and many revolutions. So some of you listening to this were around at those times, even if you were not incarnate as humans at those times. So the galactic awareness that you had, understanding your role in the universe, not just on Earth, was known to you. And because of certain galactic war events, it became that the Earth got shut off from such communication and connection, shut off from within, from a group who decided they wanted to isolate humanity and essentially have control over them. Now, the good news is it is very hard to control a soul. It is not impossible, but it is not easy, because a soul is not containable. A soul is eternal, and it can move through dimension at the speed of light. So even though many of you are incarnate humans right now and you are connected to your soul can leave your body very quickly. Your soul can travel. So you see, containing humanity is not as easy as it may seem or sound to be in the story that we are telling you. So let's move to the present day. What you are experiencing now is a long destined awakening of humanity from its, we will say, rigid enslavement, if you like, into a place where, universally speaking, you are all coming back to remember that you are part of a universe. And indeed, for many of you in your lifetime, there will be more known contact with other races, beings, and planetary systems during your lifetime. It won't necessarily look three-dimensional in the way that many of you believe it might. But that is why so many of you are tapping into your psychic and intuitive gifts. You are beginning to tap back into the mainframe of universal knowledge and wisdom. And that, for many of you, is the beginning of remembering your galactic origin. So that is why we never want you to dwell too much on this idea that you have been clamped. For if you focus too much on that, you start to get into human victim consciousness, which is understandable. And human victim consciousness is a very, very well-trodden energy imprint on the planet. So it's easy to slip into, and it's hard to get out of once it has activated in you. So that is why we wish to focus you all on understanding that this period of history that you are in, which was really beginning around the beginning of this century, even though many people focused on 2012, these events all began earlier than that. 2012 was just a good marker point. And it seemed to many of you that in the years following 2012, everything was a little quiet. Not a lot seemed to be happening. And then came 2016. And you started to notice how things on the earth plane were beginning to blow up in ways that you had heard about, had been forecast to you. And now you know you are right in the heart of the transformation of an old world into a new one. But you have to be careful to not look at it in a black and white linear way. It would not be good for any of you if all of your systems collapsed overnight. You would not survive. That is why it is good that these systems are breaking down slowly over time, and more importantly, and this is very important, and you must focus on this as much as you focus on the system breakdown, there are many beings and humans right now developing new technology, new ways, new systems for the future that are slowly but surely beginning to emerge. It's hard for them to take hold at the moment because the mainstream grid of control is so strong. But there are people working to destabilize or bring that down, as it were, or just as there are others whose role it is to focus on the birthing of the new. So you are in this time of what we would call fragile birth and strong death energy on the planet. Death of the old energetically, and also in many ways some physical deaths playing out of those beings, entities, and energies that are not supposed to go with you into the next phase.
Thank you very much. The big question that comes to me then is it's a question that's been on people's minds for so many shows as of late. And it's interesting that going back to my own personal story, you're saying about 3 months ago, guest after guest has been talking about a bifurcation of humanity at this point, a choice that we get to make. Is it chosen that we will make it through, or is there something or things we need to do as a collective to help humanity to walk this thin line?
It is chosen that you will make it through. The question is how many of you will make it through. And we say that not to be dramatic or scare anybody. The question is all around time. So what we would see from our perspective, and is playing out now, is more and more people are beginning to wake up to the problems with the current system. And until people start to see the problems with the current system and learn things about the system that previously the system was not sharing with you or wanted to conceal from you, it's going to be very hard for the hearts and minds of humans to wake up. So when many of you heard about the awakening on the planet, some of you perceived that was spiritual in nature, and we would say, yes, it is spiritual in nature, for it's energetic. But actually, the key that turns the dial on the spiritual awakening is a human mental awakening. The human mental system has been somewhat controlled, dimmed down, and yet there are enough awake souls with powerful voices, powerful frequencies, breaking through to educate the rest of you as to what you need to be paying attention to. And even though some of you get annoyed because you wish, as you would say, or as Lieven mentioned earlier, the mainstream would understand this quicker, we will say the mainstream is slowly but surely beginning to wake up. It doesn't mean the majority see things the way you do, but all you need is an increase of the minority. And once that increase of the minority starts to get close to about 30%, then the information spreads very quickly. At the moment, we would put you at around a 24% of awareness, perhaps even 25, as to where your people are, how aware they are of the problems that you have as humans, not necessarily on an ecological or environmental level, but on a man-made level. And how those man-made problems that are often sold to you as solutions are actually going to be destructive for all of you in the future. So a very discerning and critical eye is important and is needed. And you may say, well, so many people are asleep. And we will say, there are enough benevolent teachers of what they are seeing, what they are perceiving, and who are sharing their critical, wise eyes with enough others in the world that eventually this wisdom and this critical eye spreads. So will humanity make it through this transition? Yes. The question is, how long does that have to take? And what damage occurs along the way?
Thank you. That brings up some interesting points. We recently had on Dr. Stephen Greer of the Disclosure Project talking about how if certain things don't come to light in the next few years, there will be civilizations outside of our own that may need to do things so that we do not harm them. Where do we fit in galactically with the world? Are there shifts in consciousness going on all throughout the universe? What is humanity's role, and is humanity safe?
Well, humanity is safe in the sense that you are a human for a period of time. So you see, safety is a tricky word for us to deal with you, because you as humans have been taught all the ways you aren't safe. It was fed to you, spoon-fed. Very few of you were really taught the true nature of your reality. So you've been clinging onto these safeties as if they give you the illusion of maintaining your life. Whereas actually the truth of any soul is your life is not promised. Some of you will incarnate for 3 years on this planet, and you will know exactly why you have done that. Now, from a human perspective, that's very tragic. For those who lose the 3-year-old, of course, they were emotionally attached. They were ready to bond and have this long relationship with these little beings who are taken away. So from a human standpoint, yes, you see the experience one way. But from the soul level, there is no such thing as human safety. There is no such thing as safety. There is experience. And there are experiences that are more comfortable for you and less comfortable for you. And there are experiences that begin your journey as a human being. And there are experiences that end your journey as a human being. So from our perspective, the word safety is a strange one. But we will say that in terms of Earth's position and its interest to other civilizations right now, it is, we hesitate to say this, for we don't want people to take this the wrong way, but we will say it because it's the truth. It is the most important planet at this moment in time because of the combustion that is energetically taking place. The Earth is becoming illuminated from inside. There is a glow of consciousness that is beginning to permeate from inside the planet, affecting everything on the surface of the planet. Now, This could lead to an explosion of consciousness on Earth that could be not good for Earth and humanity or all living beings on the planet, and equally not good universally for other beings, other civilizations. And just as on Earth, there are some civilizations that are helpful and benevolent toward you, and there are other civilizations who may have their own ideas about what they might see Earth as. So it is a little mixed universally, but it is different to the human template. It is not the same, we will say, warlike mentality that you have on Earth. That is an old galactic imprint that was sewn into humanity. And even galactically, the imprint of war is changed to where it was thousands of years ago. So when we say there are benevolent forces and less than benevolent forces, you will tend to conjure up a picture of the heroes and the enemies. And it's not quite that simple. You see, galactically, frequencies that do not align are better at stepping away from each other at this point in time and not interfering with each other. However, what plays out on Earth in the coming 100 years is going to have a huge effect on consciousness and energy galactically. And so that is why certain civilizations who are peaceful in origin are keeping a close eye on what happens. And even though we understand this concept of they will step in, we will say they have been here influencing for a very long time anyway.
Thank you. That actually brings up Sirius energy, if I'm pronouncing that right, and that it was seated in Europe. It was the Syrian energy was seated in the Egyptians, and then I believe went away about 3,000 years ago, but maybe is still here. What can you tell me about this, or tell us?
Syrian energy is very much still on the planet. It is not only in various points around the Earth, and so therefore it emanates from inside the Earth, because the crystalline energy of the Earth contains mirror energy capsules of certain systems, certain planets, certain civilizations. You can essentially put what you might call a time capsule. You can put an energy capsule into the Earth that will leave that energy imprint on the Earth. So Syrian energy is seeded inside the Earth in some key points, particularly 8 around the planet, although there are smaller aspects of it in other areas too. But we will say that Syrian energy is of great influence when it comes to the intuitive, the psychic, or what you might call the channeled realms. There is a great deal of Syrian influence that reaches you there. And we don't mean this form of intuitive, psychic ability or demonstration that you are seeing right now. No, we mean the intuition and psychic ability that you tap into in your everyday tasks. So there are many incredible gardeners on the planet who are tapping into Syrian wisdom to work with and harmonize and calibrate the energy of the plants, the trees, the life that Earth wants to see expand and grow. So yes, Syrian energy is still very much present, but for most purposes, Syrian energy comes from off-planet through the higher mind and third eye of humans.
Thank you. Since we're talking about beings here at the moment, is there such a thing as, and it sounds like we are ushering in an era of the human angel? What is that, and what can you tell us about angels, the angelic realm, and the angelic energy, which feels like it's getting more and more powerful here on Earth right now?
Yes, the angelic realm has always been devoted to healing and harmonizing. So you might feel the presence of angels guiding you when you are having a bad day. Perhaps you're having a bad day and things are not going well. And when you remember to connect your faith, your connection, when you remember to say, universe, please help me, you may find that angelic presence that is around you will connect with you and guide, uplift, or steer you in a different direction so you can have a higher outcome. Equally, there are days when you are not asking for that connection, and angelic frequencies will step in and help put you back on the path, show you a certain sign, make you look up when you are on a street so that you see a sign in a window that reminds you of a synchronicity in your life or a loved one who has passed, something that reconnects you. So angelic influence is everywhere on Earth. It is very important. All of you have at least one assigned angelic frequency to you in your life, but many of you have far more than just one. And then, of course, there are many of you who are choosing to incarnate with a what we would call strong angelic realm component in your energy field. It doesn't mean you are fully angelic, for to be human on the earth, you need a certain level of what we would call third dimensional gravity. It's why angelic energies can find this realm so difficult. You find it a little dark, a little heavy, a little problematic. It's why so many sensitives who have large amounts of angelic frequency and haven't quite yet worked that out or understood it can get so heavy-hearted about this world, can sometimes find themselves trying to escape or self-destruct in order to cope with frequencies they haven't yet figured out how to align with, be around, while still preserving their own connection to angelic home inside themselves. So you will meet many people who have strong angelic energy. Do not be deceived. They are not all just soft, loving, and fluffy. Many of these angels are warriors. So yes, they will work on behalf of preserving peace, preserving love, harmonizing, healing. They will be activists against acts of war, acts of injustice. So you have some very strong angels on the planet, but you are also experiencing some very sensitive and very psychically in tune young people now entering the planet. They are the ones who need your help. You have many sensitive children on the planet at this time, and it's a lot for them to cope with. So while it's not your responsibility to shield them from their own life path, there will be many of you who will be in a position of influence to a child, particularly children who are at the age of 8 or over. That is when they start to, shall we say, get a little more enmeshed with the human world, the human society. And that can be when the problems can start to show for some sensitive children from 8 onwards, as they don't quite know how to harmonize themselves with the world, and they haven't yet found their outlet that can let them bring harmony to the world, bring love to the world. So these beings are very important for the future generations, and there are many of you who will see a big part of your role and your purpose as being assigned to one or many of these beings to help them to cope, to find their power, to find themselves, to find their voice. You will be one of the gatekeepers and the guardians for this angelic realm that is now taking a stronger presence on Earth in human form.
Thank you so much. Just a few more questions for you. I believe 2 for everybody, probably 1 for me. First off, what I'm getting a lot in the chat when we hold a YouTube event, when we talk with people keep bringing up Dolores Cannon and Dolores Cannon's work. And I was reading what you were saying in the latest book of Lee Harris's on Dolores Cannon. What does it mean she had emperor energy?
Well, she was able to command and bring through a great deal of high frequency, and she was able to run through her body an incredible connection to psychic energy. Emperors are beings who have influence over many. So the traditional sense of an emperor is someone who, you might say, runs a country or runs a large group of people. Emperors can also run energy onto the planet. So they are able to conduct a certain much needed energy that needs seeding and organizing on the planet. So she had emperor energy, even though she may not have perceived herself this way as a personality. She was able to conduct, run, and then deliver onto Earth a great deal of important information and energetics that support the psychic and emotional awakening of many on the planet. You see, an emotional awakening occurs when you remember the journey of your soul. And much of her work was able to remind people that they had had other lives. They were not this linear life form they believed themselves to be. They were more than this singular identity. So when we say she had emperor energy, she had been an emperor in other lifetimes, which is where she had learned how to deal with complicated dynamics. We find it quite amusing that when you are children, many of you are trained to look up at people who are emperors or kings or queens or presidents or whatever the power position is, and you are taught to look at it as a good role, it's a very hard role. Yes, it's one that can be very corrupting for people, and sometimes you are in a position of power that is already corrupt, and you are put there because you align with that corruption, or you get slowly corrupted by the system that you have found yourself a representative in. So it's not always a good thing for the individual, but we will say that even when one is true of heart and true of intention, when you are a focal point like an emperor is, it's a challenging place to find yourself. You experience a lot of projection and misperception from people. And so Dolores was good because she had gone through that in a lifetime where she was an emperor. So she had managed to calibrate herself to some of those challenges in a way that she didn't have to go through some of those, and was therefore able to seed and ground this work that she was able to stand for and disseminate because of her skills in prior lifetimes with dealing with crowds, dealing with psychic projection, dealing with human mental projection. She would have needed to be strong with all of that in order to have been able to hold the energy she was able to hold for so many. And that includes after her death. For if you are one whose work is still being used or imbibed after your death, that is quite a legacy to leave. It doesn't mean that in your death, you as a soul are overly concerned with what your work is now doing. However, if you are one who is going to leave work that will have an imprint for future generations, or perhaps not work, perhaps something that you seed into the world that is a foundation for people's way of life, it's a big life that you lead. It's a life that goes beyond your immediate lifetime. And so that requires a certain amount of energy, stamina, and the ability to run that through your system. She had that, and very much so.
Thank you so much. 2 last questions. First, is there a warning you would give to all of humanity?
The warning we would give to all of humanity is make sure that you come from love as often as you can. That does not mean let yourself be abused. That does not mean stay in relationships where the dynamics are designed to hurt. No, but we will say come from love as much as you can. We understand that fear is being used to control people a great deal at the moment on the planet. And while we are not saying put your head in the sand and just think everything is fine, for you are in a very tricky time on Earth, it is important to also practice love, let love into you, and live like today might be your last day on Earth. And then you will always want to experience the high point of love at least once that day. It will become very important to you. The thing is, as powerful as fear is, love outweighs it. So when people are in fear, it is often love or compassion that can bring them back. So if you are becoming an ambassador of love and you are seeding more love on the planet than you used to be able to, through your actions, your words, the way you show up, and again, you may not be able to do that every day, everywhere. It might not be wise for you to do so. But in the areas and places that you can, then you start to be an ambassador of a frequency that this planet needs, rather than just an opponent to that which you think the planet no longer needs. It's fine to oppose things which you think need to evolve, but it's not fine to do that without connecting to love and a positive future at the same time. Otherwise, you're just in the same war with those things that you say you don't like, that you think are warring against you and your survival.
Thank you. Last